Bojo Kanoya, Apegish Imnoya Yeg Pane. We here at Nipissing Nishnaabemwin believe peer review is an important process in the education process. However, due to lack of speaker accessibility, scheduling, and these lessons being produced by second language learners, we tend to make mistakes in how Nishnaabemwin is represented. We encourage you to think with a critical mind when watching our videos and question the validity of something said in the video that catches your attention. We are language learners and naturally don't know what we don't know. We don't discourage others from helping us out by educating us, and if you see a mistake you would like us to rectify, you can do so by contacting the email in the video description. We also ask for your patience in waiting for edits, because it is a long process to edit mistakes we share in our videos, and there is the possibility that it might not align with the speakers of Nipissing First Nation. Miigwech Bisinduyang, Wewe Nog Nawam Damuk.
On in Bojo Kanoya, Mr. McLeod Mondai Amina, Bajinaka Queen Monim. I just want to let you guys know that links to the dictionary, PDFs to the worksheet, audio files are in links in the description of this video, as well as any other resources that'll help you out with this lesson will eventually be there as soon as I'm done making them. Aho, miigwech.
On in Mina, Mr. McLeod Mondaya. Today's lesson is on adverbs and multi-clauses. So we're adding to our verbs and linking ideas. Today's lesson. Today we'll be learning how to add meaning to our phrases through the addition of adverbs and learning how to compound phrases to link together multiple ideas. We'll also cover grammatical agreement in order to best understand and translate Ojibwe in a way that makes logical sense. Yes/no questions. Refresher. We can ask yes/no questions that elicit either a yes or no response from our audience. In Nishnaabemwin, they are expressed using the word na in second position, almost as if it's the second word in your question. We can also use the word na, which is our way of asking right or a. Both are a way of seeking confirmation from our audience at the end. Na has additional meanings that are beyond the scope of this course. Just be prepared that it won't always be used for asking questions. Here are the points you should write down in your notes before moving on. Make sure to pause the video here and write these down before we go further. Miskoye Ambe. So we have the sign up, meaning you should write these down before moving on. Tense markers. Tense is our way to incorporate time into our speech. In Nishnaabemwin, we have 5 tenses that can be incorporated into our speech. This happens in the form of prefixes that occur after our pronoun prefixes n, g, and and directly in front of our verb, VTA. For present tense, we have our pronoun prefixes, no tense marker, VTA, and then our suffix. Nwido kwa a nene, I am helping the man. For present tense, we have our pronoun prefix, followed by gi, then our VTA word, and then our suffixes. Ngi wido kwa a nene, I was helping the man. Make sure to write these down before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Miskoye Ambe. We still have the sign up here, so make sure to write these down as well before moving on to the next slide. Indefinite future, meaning want to. So we start off with our pronoun prefix, followed by we as our tense marker, then our VTA word, and then our suffixes. In we do kwa anene, I want to help the man. Definite future tense, will or shall. So we start off with our pronoun prefix, followed by a ga, then our VTA word, and then our suffix. In ga we do kwa anene, I will help the man, or I shall help the man. Lastly is our modal tense, means should, could, or would. We'll start off with our pronoun prefix, followed by da, then a VTA word, and then our suffixes. Da wido kwa anene, I should help the man, I could help the man, I would help the man. We'll give you a chance here to pause the video and write these down in your notes before moving on to the next slide. Miskoye ambe. Adverb definition. And so we have the sign up, meaning you should write these down before moving on to the next slide. Adverbs are words that allow us to modify our verbs and verb clauses to specify things like time, place, manner, degree, and more. Examples include temporal adverbs, specifying time. Ngiwab ma, I saw him or her. Jinaga ngiwab ma, I saw him or her yesterday. So in this example, jinaga is our temporal adverb referring to yesterday. We'll give you a chance here to pause the video and write these down in your notes before moving on. Miskoye ambe. We still have the sign up, meaning you should write these down before moving on to the next slide. Locational adverbs, specifying place. In wabma mtigung, I see him or her at the tree. Shkwai in wabma mtigung, I see him or her behind the tree. So in this example, shkwai is our locational adverb referring to behind. Manner adverbs, specifying how, way, or manner. In gip kit tewa, I hit him or her. Negaj in gip kit tewa, I hit him or her gently. In this example, negaj is our manner adverb, referring to how someone is being hit gently. Degree adverbs, specifying degree or intensity. In gip kit tewa, I hit him or her. Gega in gip kit tewa, I almost hit him or her. So in this example, gega is our degree adverb, meaning almost. Make sure to write these down in your notes before we move on. We'll give you a chance to pause the video here. Miskoye ambe. So here we have the sign up again, meaning you should write these down before moving on to the next slide. Temporal adverb examples. Jinaga means yesterday. Dbekung means last night. Wiba means earlier or soon. This is contingent on our tense marker. If we're talking about something in the past, wiba means earlier. If your verb has a future tense marker, wiba means soon. Something that happened earlier is in the past. Something that's going to happen soon is in the future. Aja, meaning now or already. So again, aja has two different meanings. Now is in present tense, meaning there's no tense marker. When aja means already, that's already happened. It's in the past. So your verb will have a gi tense marker, past tense. Nongum can mean now or today. Bamapi means later. Waswabang means 2 days from now. Make sure to write these down in your notes before we move on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Miskoye ambe. Grammatical agreement. Ojibwe uses a lot of grammatical agreements. Grammatical agreements are when two or more aspects of grammar are required to be used within the same phrase to make sense. For example, in our negative A form or imperative phrases, we start negative and end negative. This is a point for you to write down in your notes before moving on. Make sure to write this down before we go to the next slide. Miskoye ambe. Starting negative is one aspect of our grammar where we use the word for no, gawin, in Ojibwe at the beginning of our phrases to contribute to expressing negation. Negation is complete when our verb has the appropriate negative suffix. The combined use of gawin and attaching negative suffixes to our verb is a grammatical agreement we need to use in order to express things in the negative. Examples of grammatical agreement. Simpler grammatical agreements that we can more easily comprehend relate to tenses and our temporal adverbs. For example, if we use the word jinaga, yesterday, in our phrase, what tense marker should we attach to our verb? We, ga, da, or gi. We can ask ourselves, when does jinaga take place? Past, present, or future? Why does it not make sense to say the following, and what does it mean? In wiwabma amkwa jinaga. So in wiwabma, I want to see amkwa, the bear, yesterday. Just doesn't make sense. Why does it not make sense to say the following, and what does it mean? Ngawabma amkwa, I will see the bear, jinaga, yesterday. Just doesn't add up. Matching the correct tense marker to our verbs based on the temporal adverb is a form of grammatical agreement we can easily practice or use. Some temporal adverb translations are dependent on fixed tenses, and some temporal adverbs are free to use any tense and still make sense. Temporal adverbs are not always required when using tense markers, so they can be optional. Here are the points for you to write down in your notes before we move on. Make sure to pause the video and write these down. Miskoye, ambe. Compound tenses. And we have the sign up, meaning that you should write these down before moving on to the next slide. Some tenses can be used in conjunction with each other to provide further nuance. In other words, to create compound tenses. Example 1. Combining past tense with indefinite future tense. So we have our pronoun prefixes, gi, our VTA, and then our suffixes. Indefinite future tense, want to, our pronoun prefixes followed by we, VTA, and suffixes. For example, giwi can be used to express wanted to. So in this one, we are combining gi and we to form a new tense, wanted to. In giwi wabma anemush, I wanted to see the dog. Make sure to write these down in your notes before we move on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Miskoye, ambe. We have the sign up, meaning that you should write these down as well before moving on to the next slide. Example 2, combining a modal tense with a past tense. So modal tenses, should, could, or would. We have our pronoun prefixes followed by da, then our VTA, and then our suffixes. Past tense, we have our pronoun prefixes followed by gi, our VTA words, and then our suffixes. We can also combine da and gi together, da-gi, to express should've, could've, or would've. Jinaga da-gi waba anemush, I could have seen the dog yesterday. Make sure to write these down in your notes before we move on. We'll give you a chance to pause the video here and write these down. Miskoye, ambe. Prefix and tense incorporation. We have the sign up, meaning you should write these points down before moving on to the next slide. When we have a pronoun prefix, g, immediately followed by tense markers that start with the same letter, g, for example, gi or ga, instead of using gi or ga, we substitute the double G for a K sound. This means we'll use ki in place of gi. We also use ka in place of ga. We'll give you a chance here to pause the video and write these down in your notes before moving on. Miskoye, ambe. Clause definition. We have the sign up, meaning you should write these down before moving on to the next slide. Clauses are collections of words that contain a subject, noun or actor, and a predicate, verb or action. Clauses can be full sentences on their own, but sentences can also be comprised of multiple clauses. Again, we'll give you a chance to pause the video here and write these down in your notes before we move on. Miskoye, ambe. A form. In language learning, we use terms like A form, B form, and C form to distinguish the type of clause or verb manipulation required to express a specific intention. A form is generally understood as an independent clause. A form or independent clause sound like simple sentences and sound like a complete thought. I saw a dog yesterday versus when I saw the dog yesterday. Notice how the second clause feels or sounds incomplete? This is why it's not independent. It relies on further information. Make sure to pause the video here and write these down in your notes before we move on. We'll give you a chance to pause. Miskoye, ambe. Multi-clause sentences. And we have the sign it, meaning that you should write these down before we move on to the next slide. Sentences can be comprised of multiple clauses. In English, we usually use conjunction words, for example, and, because, etc., to link multiple clauses to form a sentence. As language learners, it's easier for us to use grammar patterns to expand our speaking capabilities to speak multi-clause sentences and progress further to storytelling because they are simple and consistent for us to replicate. We have grammar patterns to elicit A form, B form, and C form inflections. They usually consist of an initial adverb, then a clause name like A, B, or C form, so we know how to manipulate our verbs as necessary to emulate native speakers' speech. We'll give you a chance to pause here in the video to write these down in your notes before we move on. Miskoye, ambe. Grammar patterns. We have the sign up, and you should write these down before we move on. So our example phrase here is ngiwa amkwa, I saw the bear. Our grammar patterns are going to show us how they change our example phrase. At the same time is bekish plus A form. Ngiwa mig bekish ngiwa ma amkwa. He saw me at the same time I saw the bear. Had to, boch, past tense plus A form. Boch ngiwa ma amkwa. I had to see the bear. But someone verbs anyways. Boch dashko plus A form. Boch dashko ngiwa ma amkwa. But I saw the bear anyways. Still is geaba plus A form. Geaba and doknwa ma amkwa. I'm still looking at the bear. I think gunabach guna plus A form. Gunabach guna nwiwa ma amkwa. I think I want to see the bear. Make sure to write these down in your notes before we move on to the next slide. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Miskoye, ambe. Else or otherwise, A form plus gishpin. Ganmaji ken kawa mig kwa gishpin. Don't move, or else the bear will see you. Used to is k, past tense, plus A form. Ngiwa ma kwa. I used to see the bear. Usually, k, present tense, plus A form. Ewa ma kwa. I usually see the bear. Might as well is indawaj, future tense, plus A form. Ndawach kag nawa ma kwa. You might as well look at the bear. Let me verb, daga, future tense, plus A form. Daga and gawa ma kwa. Let me see the bear. Again, we'll give you a chance to pause the video here. Write these in your notes before we move on. Miskoye, ambe. Let someone verb, mono, future tense, plus A form. Mono gawa man mkwanene. Let the man see the bear. And or again, minwa or mina, plus A form. Minwa ngiwa ma kwa. And I saw the bear, or I saw the bear again. Verbed for nothing is nisha plus A form. Nisha ngiwa ma kwa. I saw the bear for nothing. Have to, future tense, had to, past tense. Twena plus A form. Twena and gawa ma kwa. I have to see the bear. Because too much is zam plus A form. And minwen dam zan giwa ma kwa. I'm happy because I saw the bear. We'll give you a chance to pause here and write these down in your notes before we move on. Miskoe ambe. Multi-clause sentence structures. Because of our grammar patterns, we can now form multi-clause sentences and fit them together like puzzle pieces. Let's translate the following. Twana and gawab ma amingze zam ma jaminwen ma. Number 1, clauses are separated by nouns and verbs. We know ngawab ma is our first verb phrase, and amigze would be our first noun. So twana and gawab ma amigze is our first clause, and zam and man minwen ma is our second clause. We should recognize twana and future tense ga from our grammar patterns have to. Number 3, in wabma, we know means I see him or her. Number 4, amagise, according to our dictionary, means the eagle. So our first clause, twena and ga wabma amagise, means I have to see the eagle. Number 6, our second clause is zam and manja minwen ma. According to our grammar patterns, zam can mean because or too much. And if we examine our previous clause, it doesn't involve numbers or extent. We can assume that zam means because in this context. Next, we know n is our prefix for I or me, and the ending of our verb is a, meaning acting on him or her. Since there are no other nouns involved, we know we are still acting on the eagle. Our verb minwanim, according to our dictionary, is used for like him or her. Our preverb manje means cumulative. And when used with liking someone, we can understand it to be the one I like the cumulative or most, or more simply, my favorite. So altogether, twena and gawab ma amegazit zaman manja minwen ma means I have to see the eagle because they are my favorite. Lesson summary. Yes/no questions are expressed through using na or na in second position, the latter meaning right or a. Tenses take the form of prefixes and attach directly in front of our verbs, VTA words. Some tenses are compoundable and can be used in conjunction with each other to add variety to our tenses. Adverbs modify our verbs to specify manner, location, time, degree, and more. Nishnaabemwin practices grammatical agreements by using two or more aspects of grammar within the same phrase to contribute to meaning. Lastly, we can use grammar patterns to elicit multi-clause sentences in order for us to articulate more expansive sentences or ideas. Miigwech bisindueg nongom, misae nongom. Thank you all for listening to me today. That's it for today.